Greetings and salutations and welcome once again to the K Plus Crusaders live at the time from the Safe House. My name is David Barry, as you can see down below me, at Dr. Barry on varying social media platforms. I am joined this evening by my comrade in arms, the only original of the original six who's not in Southern California.
I'm like Chibs on Sons of Anarchy. This is the Azorian one, Anthony Steves. You bastard.
Oh, Chibs. My bad. I was thinking of
Opie?
No, the mustache.
Oh, Tig.
Tig. I was thinking of Tig, and I was like, dude, why are you going to be dead?
No, Chibs, man. Chibs.
Oh, yeah, anyway. So, if you are related, or take two. Related? If you are interested in anything related to the K Plus Crusaders, you can find it at thekpluscrusaders.com. That is your number one hub for anything Crusader related, comic news, comic reviews, so on and so forth. If you are interested in our sponsors, they are lovely, they are wonderful. They include Empire's Comics Vault, local comic book pug and hot sauce store. The pugs are not for sale.
You can't have them.
But you can enjoy their presence.
You can.
You can also go to Computer Booter, which is local computer repair, retro video game lounge, and retro game store. If you want to go in there, you want to play Super Smash Brothers, you might see Curtis Fisher in there. Who knows? He'll probably kick your butt. Or say you're like me, and you got this beautiful beard coming in, and you're like, I need to maintain this.
It's nice.
I need to get my self-care on. Honey, I'm going to go to beardbombrush.com. I'm going to use the code Capeless for 15% off. What it's going to do is going to give 15% off of this awesome beard balm brush that takes the oil, it takes the balm, and it takes the brush, puts it all into one, and just gets it exactly just like it's Bondi just said in the chat. Just so beautiful. Hey, if you're in the chat, welcome. Hello, we are on Twitch. If you're on YouTube, hello from the past. And if you're on the podcast app, hey.
Hi.
How's it going?
Watch out for that car.
I apologize for the dogs whining in the background and the possible baby crying at some point, but I am a dad of all things.
Use your turn signal.
Yeah, use your turn signal. So, on this week's episode, we got a couple things planned. First, we're going to have an interview. An interview with a local legend.
What?
That is Kyrun Silva.
Yes.
Taurus Comics. We're going to talk about his comic books and his Kickstarter for his next project.
Yes.
We are then going to go around the horn. We're going to talk about comic books. We're going to talk about some news. And then we're going to get to our main topic of the evening, which is comic book burnout. It's totally a thing, and it's really easy to get that right now because it's everywhere. So we'll talk about that later. It's everywhere. But first off, we're going to need my man Kyrun to come out from his hidey hole. And
out of the cone of silence.
Out of the cone of silence.
Yeah.
There he is.
We hear him.
Hey! Kyrun.
Hey!
Welcome to the show.
Glad to be on here. Thanks for having me.
Of course, man. Thank you for coming on. So, Kyrun, right off the bat, you are the founder, the CEO, the COO, the CFO,
and the janitor.
And the janitor for Taurus Comics.
The most important job there is a janitor.
You keep the office clean.
Exactly,
So
keep it nice and tidy.
So, Kyrun, Taurus Comics, local publisher, local comic creator. So, tell us about, you've got a Kickstarter starting tomorrow. Is that correct?
Tomorrow.
So,
that is correct. Tomorrow,
so what's
July
the date
3rd.
for tomorrow? Just in case someone watches it on YouTube.
Say that again?
What's the date tomorrow that is actually dropping?
Oh, July 3rd, 9 a.m. Pacific.
That's good, because if someone's listening to this and they're like, oh, I want to go support that guy, and they're listening like 2 months from now, that'd be weird.
It's September.
Yeah, that'd be a little weird.
So, what? Tell us about your
Is it a
Kickstarter.
year then, too, or what?
Tell us about the Kickstarter. What do you got going on?
So the Kickstarter is for the second issue of Saw the Lightning Wielder. It's my original series I'm the writer on and creator. The first issue was kickstarted last year. We met our goal at the very last moment, like literally with 30 seconds left, we hit our goal.
You're welcome.
And so far, was that all you? Is that what that is? You can take all the credit as long as it got there.
Yeah.
So we're hoping that your magic gets blessed over this second one.
Yeah.
And that we get funded right away.
I'm gonna just immediately hit at my man Greg Capullo and be like, hey Greg,
Come on, man.
throw some love.
I was just talking to him today. What are you talking about? He's my man.
Yeah, he's just all over. He's on Twitter. He's just throwing up devil horns constantly. Bald.
As he's lifting weights and playing the guitar.
Yeah, as he's like playing the metal and drawing all the Batman. Like, love it. So your Kickstarter starts tomorrow for issue 2. What can you tell us about issue 1? I don't want to spoil anything, but give us a premise.
Issue 1 is an introductory into the character. It tells just a brief history about where the character got her powers, introduces the main villain of the story, which is Lord Eclipse, and also introduces a, I don't want to call him a sidekick, but he is going to be someone that goes with Saw and teaches her how to use her abilities.
Nice. Cool. So now, so you said issue number 1 was kickstarted right at the end. It met its goal. So what kind of incentives have we got for issue number 2 that they're gonna keep people coming back and supporting?
Well, the first thing is, if you for some reason didn't catch the first Kickstarter and you haven't gotten your copy, maybe through our website, tauruscomics.com, nice plug there, you can you can get both issues 1 and 2 either digitally or the physical copy. Those are the first options. You can also get sketch cards done by myself of Saw Lightning Wielder.
Nice.
There will be an option to get a dust mask with the Taurus Comics logo on it. We have options of prints of our cosplayer. Her name is Christy Chaw. She's from the Sacramento area also. She's the official Saw Lightning Wielder cosplayer.
Nice.
And we're also doing a cross promotion with another Kickstarter that's launching tomorrow called Welcome to the Void, where if you do both our service and their campaign, you'll get a free print.
Nice.
Being done by my artist David Jackson and their colorist.
So it sounds like first off, you get to support a local book, which is always important. You get to support a local creator. And on top of that, you have a ton of sweet perk options.
Swag.
Just so much swag. I mean, we know...
Are we still using swag in 2018, though?
So here's the thing. Not to say something is cool, but the actual stuff, like the stuff is still swag. Like con swag, and like all the swag is all the stuff that we would get from you. It's not cool anymore, but it still refers to a thing. So he wasn't saying swag like swag.
No, not that.
He was saying swag like all this Taurus swag.
Yeah. I never said swag that way, ever.
Yeah, no, he never says bro either.
I totally say bro.
Anyway. And so, Kyrun, you also have your book Shaman's Destiny.
Yes.
Now, Shaman's Destiny, I heard you're doing something a little different with it now. Because I know we can go down to, say, Empire's Comics Vault and get a physical copy. But what are you doing now new with Shaman's Destiny?
What are you doing?
Well, with Shaman's Destiny, I've launched that on Lion Webtoons, which is the a pretty big webcomic provider right now. And what I'm doing is every Wednesday, I'm launching a new episode of Shaman's Destiny where you can go from issue 1 all the way through issue 6 of the series that I did. Right now, it's about halfway through issue 1 if you go to Webtoons, and you can actually read all of it for free.
Nice. So you're just giving stuff away now.
I'm trying to.
How are you staying in this swag-tastic room you got going on behind you? Are you what are you doing to survive?
My wife is a hitman.
Oh, never mind. That makes sense. Okay.
She's Sicario.
Exactly.
I thought that was Josh Brolin.
No, she was Benito del Toro.
Well, yeah.
Brolin's with him.
Beautiful. Anyway.
Thanos and him again.
Thanos everywhere.
So tell us what the website is so we can get to the Kickstarter when it launches tomorrow at 9 a.m.
So for the Kickstarter, you can go to sawcomic.com, which actually is spelled XOBCOMIC.com. And so it's a long pronunciation. That's why
XOB. That's what's important, because it's not SAW. That's how that's phonetically how it sounds, but it's XOB. And tell me why is so? What is Saw from?
Saw is a deity from Hmong culture, which is from Southeast Asia. Oh. It's one of the many deities they have in their culture.
See, and I think that's awesome, because that's like a culture. I've never seen a comic about Hmong culture ever.
Nothing out there except for mine. Exactly. So hopefully everybody picks it up and tries it out.
And there's so many like interesting things. Like there's so many like deities and like cool stories and mythos to go into.
Legit.
So I'm happy that you not only are a good friend of the show, but you're a local comic creator. You're representing Sacramento well, supposedly, and you're also
always
you're also a really big fan of whoever knocked Portugal out of the World Cup, right?
No, I'm not.
He speaks Portuguese, man.
He doesn't.
Why would you say that?
You speak Portuguese, Kyrun?
No, I don't. Not well.
Well, you're a liar.
But it's in my blood somewhere down the line.
Somewhere. I mean, yeah,
My grandfather was supposedly from Portugal, so I try to
cool.
root for them whenever I can.
And let's face it, we still got Brazil.
Yeah, there you go.
They
Yeah,
won-
cool.
they beat Mexico today.
that place that you colonized. Great for you.
Hey, long time ago.
colonizer.
We're cousins now.
Oh yeah, okay.
I
Yeah.
have family there.
Anyway,
It's all good now. It's all
yeah,
good.
it's all good. Everything is forgiven. So Kyrun, what else? Is there anything else we need to know about your Kickstarter? It says launching tomorrow at 9 a.m. It's got some sweet perks.
Well, if you go tomorrow, there's an early bird special where you can get like the book and the sketch card, like I was mentioning, and all these other swag, as you put it. You can actually get it at a discounted price.
Nice.
It's only available for the first week of the Kickstarter, and then it sort of doubles in price after that. So you want to take advantage of it when you can.
Yeah, you want to get in there. You want to make sure it's taken care of. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, Kyrun, you did Shaman's Destiny. You got Saw. What's next? What's next for Taurus Comics? What do you got coming down the pipeline?
Well, after that, we have another series that I'm working on writing and drawing. It's called Ruby from Planet Oz. It's a sci-fi riff of the Wizard of Oz series.
Nice.
And what it is Ruby is abducted by aliens who take her to the planet Oz, sell her as a slave, and she now has to escape and becomes part of the liberating force to liberate the entire planet.
That sounds fantastic.
Thank you.
Are you gonna
That I'm working on.
Are you gonna have a Kickstarter for that as well?
I might. It depends on how well Saw goes.
Okay.
There could be a stretch goal that if we reach enough of funding for Saw, you might get Ruby on top of that.
Nice.
There also is a stretch goal that if we get enough, you might even get a 20-minute cartoon of Saw the Lightning Wielder. Just to throw that out there right now.
Nice. That's cool.
But yeah. I've talked to a couple animators, and they told me if I sell off a couple body parts, I might be able to afford them.
Easy.
So I don't want to do that. So I want to get the funding through Kickstarter instead.
I mean, which hand do you draw with?
Am I right?
Get rid of the other one. Do you need?
I like lefty.
Do you need legs in order to draw?
Not to draw, but I do need legs to do Taekwondo. And I want to get my black belt soon. So
Okay, fine.
But I mean, toes count as body parts. Pinky toe.
Hey.
they did not say anything about toast. You're right. I could use that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Give
That's why you're the smart one.
Me? I'll take it.
Okay. Whatever you say, Kyrun. So, Kyrun, before we let you go, is there anything else we need to know about your Kickstarter, about Taurus, about you, about your dogs?
About my dogs?
Yeah,
my dog needs to go to the bathroom right now, actually.
That's a good time then.
Then you should let the dog out.
Kyrun, if you'll excuse me, I have to do the.
What's he doing? What's happening?
Can I do that too?
Oh,
Just
no.
look over your shoulder and shake your
Yeah.
head. That's something. Yeah, there it is. Thanks, man. All right, Kyrun, thanks for coming on. We'll post all the information about your Kickstarter in the morning. And if you're watching, if you're listening, if you're on YouTube, wherever you are, check out xobcomic.com to check out the Kickstarter, support a local creator, a fantastic local creator, friend of the show, Kyrun Silva. Kyrun, thanks for coming on, man.
Taurus Comics.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Have a good night, brother.
You too.
If I could find how do I cancel? There we go.
Good talk.
Good talk. Get out of here, Skype.
Taurus Comics, Kyrun Silva,
I'm gonna get rid of Skype.
Zob the Lightning Wielder.
Saw.
Sob.
Sob.
Sorry, the Lightning Wielder. I like that.
I think you're thinking of Saab, SAAB, the car.
Yes. Also a Lightning Wielder. No,
Depending on who you are.
No, they're not.
So, when we were surrounded by comic books, when we are in the safe house with the comic books, and we're talking to comic creators.
You son of a bitch!
There's Kyrun with the sub, with the host. We don't do it too loud because there's a baby asleep, but we do like to go round the horn.
Get the moonshine.
Where them boys
Bo,
boys
Duke,
where those Duke boys
Duke
at?
boys at?
That was good.
That's very calm.
When we go around the horn, we talk about what comic books we've been reading this week. We go around the table in a circular fashion. We don't have a circular table. There's only two of us, so we're just
us.
gonna go back and forth.
One
side of a table. But we talk about what comic books we've been reading this week. And Steve's,
Yes.
you have yours with you.
Yes.
What have you been reading?
Started it. I have started it. Haven't finished it yet. I started it from Free Comic Book Day. Yes, that was about 2 months ago.
Yes.
I finally got to it. It's got quite a few. I started Barrier. From Image. Written by Mr. Brian K. Vaughan.
Yeah, that guy.
Here. Also with Marcos Martin and Munza Vincente. Hopefully I'm saying those right. But it starts off, it's got a very cinematic beginning, as you can see there. Look at that.
I mean, you're even holding it the wrong way.
What? Yeah?
I mean, you're holding it the right way.
Oh yeah,
they printed the wrong way.
They printed the wrong way. Yeah, it's very cinematic. Very cinematic there.
Nerds.
It starts off with a gentleman. It's on near the Texas-Mexico border, and gentleman finds a severed horse head, and starts bringing up who could do this, who did this type of thing. Brings up jokingly chupacabras, and I believe her name is Liddy, that he is partnered with. Mm-hmm. Yes, Liddy from Far, Texas.
Far. P-H-A-R-R.
Yes. She meets up with them, and they basically try to figure out who did this barbaric...
Who did this
barbaric act on this horse. The entire comic, so far as I'm noticing, is written, in this manner, basically the centerfold way of reading here.
Interesting.
So then there's very Godfather Corleone.
That's a very bold, creative move to take.
Yeah. So it's very intriguing so far. I am excited to see where it takes me. It is from Image Comics.
Hey.
Again, Free Comic Book Day. Barrier by Brian K. Vaughan. Yeah, again. And Marcos Martin and Munza Vincente.
See, that's important because we like to talk about the entire creative team.
Exactly.
Not just the writers, not just the artists, but the colorists, inkers, janitors, letterers, all of them if we got them. So
janitor on here.
I was busy this week.
Oh.
I even brought in. Are you ready for this? Are you ready? Do you see what's on my mug?
Oh snap!
Do you know who that is?
That's
me.
That's you.
That's me as a comic book character.
That's the doctor.
Yeah,
right there.
a few years back, my wife got my custom comic book of me made.
That is awesome.
And she then put me on a mug.
Did they continue the story?
What story?
Of your comic. Is it still going?
Nah.
Okay.
Well,
we'll have to Kyrun.
Yeah.
Kyrun will continue.
Yeah, Kyrun will work on it for us. So this week, I read a lot. Hang on, let me pull up my note. Let me just
notes.
Pardon me. Notes. Days and days and days. First off, Venom. The Venom comic right now from Marvel. Yeah, it is really, really good. Eddie Brock is Venom again.
Nice.
But we're now learning about the god of the symbiotes. Symbiote? Mm-hmm. Symbiote.
Simbo.
Simbo the symbiote.
He's going to be introduced later down the road.
Yeah. So I read issues 2 and 3 of Venom for Marvel. Now it's a new take on the story. We're basically learning about the history of like this rogue sect of symbiote Venoms that are led by this basically like Dracula looking dude.
Blah.
Blah. I'm all about it. I'm really excited about this so far. The other thing.
Would you like to see the symbiotes?
Exactly. That is part of what we did.
Big color?
No. Actually, more. What's the word I'm looking for? What's
vest? Ascot?
No. What version? Long white hair, like black armor with a red dragon on it. You know which version? Whatever. So yeah, there's a god of the symbiote. The other thing I read, Sentry #1.
Okay.
So Sentry has now returned to the Marvel Universe. He's battling the Void constantly, of course, which is he's basically like Superman, but with very much a dark side. A dark side that will, as he uses his power, gains power and eventually try to eat the world. Nice. Pretty good. Liking it so far. Jeff Lemire. Multiple Man #1, which is a short limited series, limited run. Being written by Matthew Rosenberg, I believe. I'm trying to remember, and I can't. I know his Twitter handle is Ashcan Press. That's all I know.
That's who wrote it.
Yeah, Ashcan Press. Multiple Man #1. So Jamie Maddox, who is Multiple Man, died in the X-Men versus Inhumans storyline. But the whole thing is he has multiple versions of himself, right? Because he's the multiple man. If you hit him, he can create another one of himself, and they last for a while. They'll eventually degrade. Except when the prime one dies, they'll all eventually degrade over time. So it turns out while this is all happening, he locked one of himself in a lab to try to find a cure.
Okay.
So now that version of him is out, but that's not actually the original him. So it's like he's trying to figure out a way to stop from dying. Okay. It's really well done. The other thing I read
was he in X-Men 3? Did McSteamy from Grey's Anatomy play him? Or the guy who multiplied and then became one? Is that?
I think that's roughly based on him.
Okay.
But yeah, that guy would you punch him and a bunch of them would come out and then they'd all come back together. Yeah, so roughly. A poor representation of him. They use a lot of X-Men poorly, I think. They did well with some.
And yes, I watched Grey's Anatomy, so I know he's McSteamy. Leave me alone. He's on the last ship now on TNT. That show.
I don't know what that is about.
It's kind of a successful cable show, but it's like basic cable.
Okay. Anyway, the other thing I read.
McSteamy.
Are you ready for this? So last night I gave myself a challenge.
Ooh, challenge accepted.
Because in our news we're going to talk about an issue that's coming out this week, a certain Batman issue. So I said, you know what, Tom King? I love Tom King. I've always loved Tom King. And so I decided because I've read random spatterings here and there of his Batman books. Mm-hmm. Never actually read all of them. I was like, you know what? I'm going to marathon Tom King's current Batman run.
There you go.
So, final tally, because I basically started last night, and I wanted to challenge myself, see how far I could get today.
The over-under was what, 14? Is that what it was?
Yeah, the over-under was 14.
Okay.
So, Steves, your final guess. How many Batman comics do you think I read in the last 24 hours?
You're pretty good at marathoning comics. Mm-hmm. I'm holding the baby comic in the other hand. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna go with the over. I'm gonna say 16.
You're gonna say 16. So
yes.
you think I got to issue 16?
I think you get 16.
Well, you'd be wrong, my friend.
Oh.
My wife is in the chat room and she's guessing 50. She's also wrong. I didn't get that far. My iPad did die at one point.
Okay, all right.
Yes, that's the thing. So I read digitally, and that's how I'm able to go through it so fast. Okay, digitally, I'm just boom, boom, boom. Uh-huh. It's cutting between the two. I get to issue 24.
Nice.
So basically, I read 130 is closer. She got close. I read 24 issues of Batman. Now that being said, I still had to put the baby down. Yeah. And then my iPad died. Yeah, I fell asleep. Okay, I had to nap with the baby. This low latency chat where they can respond and get distracted by Food Network star, also accurate.
I don't blame you there.
So
that's pretty good.
So I read 24 issues of Tom King's Batman run.
Nice.
It's good.
Yes,
he's good.
Since Sheriff of Babylon, the guy's been on a tear.
He's been everything he's done has been great. My only problem, and this probably wasn't his fault, the Night of the Monster Men and the Button story.
Okay, I didn't read Night of the Monster Men.
Night of the Monster Men. Dr. Hugo Strange, he used the venom that made Bane.
I remember the cover,
and he made a bunch of people basically using this steroid, he turned them all into monsters. The problem with it is
came out during Halloween, I think.
Yes, part 1 was in Batman.
Okay.
Part 2 was in Nightwing. Part 3 was in thanks for the follow.
Nice.
Part 3 was in Nightwing. Part 4 was in Batwoman.
Yeah, I remember this. And it gets really hard to follow, especially if you're not buying. If I'm not following those other stories, I had to then stop and go and find Nightwing, and I had to stop and then, I get why they do it, because they want you, hey, there's this story. Hey, there's this character.
Exactly.
But also, it's just in the middle of this story, I don't want to go over to that story right now.
Right. Exactly. So I didn't want to hop back and forth. Excuse me. So, but I did, because I really want to know what happened in those stories. So I read them, because it all goes all the way to Detective Comics.
Yeah.
And then the Button went back and forth with Flash. Other than that, though, it was all really self-contained. The man is amazing, and he's even said that he's doing a 100-issue run.
Nice.
It is a 100-issue, he tweeted this, love letter to Batman and Catwoman.
Awesome.
It is a 100-issue arc. He is not even halfway done yet. Well, I mean, he's done writing them probably. But it's insane how much Tom King has done. Seabridge in the chat. Been a fan of DC and Marvel characters for a while. Grew up with reruns of the DC animated shows, which is good, and the MCU. So you grew up in a great time, and you're actually that's going to come into play with our main topic, which is comic book burnout.
Stay tuned.
It's all here. Complete beginners comics wise. This would actually be a good one to do. Because right now, DC, they're 49 issues into their rebirth, which means a lot of their main titles, Flash, Aquaman, Batman, Superman, they're all at issue 49. It's a lot to go back and read, but it's all very well put together right now. They're all connected. It's all same, for the most part, same writers and same artists. Like, they're not hopping around doing a lot. The other thing I would do, I mean, if you're looking for some beginners, pick a character, go into a comic book store, find your local comic book store if there's one nearby, go in and say, you know what, man, I really like the X-Men, and they will point you in the right direction. You can get trades to read some classic stories, some older stories. You can start new. I mean, there's a lot of good jumping on points right now, which again will come into play in our next topic. And like Kate Berry just said in the chat, you can get all of those in trades. They're all in collected volumes. So you can go into a comic book store, you can get 6 issues at a time. You can catch up Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, anybody you're into. Marvel's got the same thing going on. Their numbering system's a little weird right now. So again, it helps if you have somebody at a comic book store you can go to. Because you can walk in and comic book store owners, usually, I say usually because some of them are the stereotypical nerd that doesn't want to talk to you.
Worst episode ever.
But there are a lot of them who you go in, like we got Empire's Comics here in Sacramento. You go into Ben and you're like, Ben, man, I really like Hulk. And he's like, all right, here's the Hulk section. Here's the important stories you need to start with. Here's his origin. Here's this, here's that. So it's a lot of times they'll retell their classic origin stories. So sometimes it's hard to know where to jump in. But having a local comic book store or us can always help out with that.
I'll say for me, you said you've been watching the MCU. That's your starting point here. What I did was when I watched the Nolan Dark Knight trilogy, I wanted to find out what they used as inspiration for their movies. So I found out that, Batman Begins was inspired by Batman Year One. The Dark Knight was inspired by Batman Year One and The Long Halloween. So I went and got those trades, which right now to me are still the best Batman stories I've read. Granted, I'm influenced by the movies, but they're right there. So find out, if you're watching the MCU, find out what, Jon Favreau used to inspire for Iron Man. Find out what the Russo brothers used to inspire Captain America Winter Soldier. And if that's what fuels you as well for the movies, go that route. But absolutely what Barry's saying, go to a comic shop, they'll tell you where to go.
And he's saying he's a wiki buff, so he knows the whole history of the characters, which that's
nice.
So that's a good thing to do in some ways, because then you know what you need to do. New 52 was weird. So New 52 was they took some really strange turns.
Yeah.
So right now Rebirth is kind of doesn't completely do away with New 52, but it looks at it as an alternate kind of timeline, and it's kind of restarted again and refocused, and it's going really well. If you're a Superman fan, the Rebirth Superman story has actually been really good. Action Comics has been really good. Kate Berry in the chat to just say independent comic books are also a great place to go. If you like Marvel and DC. Definitely Marvel and DC, like, they've got a ton going on right now. There's always the classics, the Batman, the Superman. But if you're looking for stuff a little more out there, a little more interesting, independent creators, Image Comics, who is, they're still technically an independent, but I mean, at this point, they're basically like...
They're pretty big, right?
They're pretty big. But independent stuff, finding local comic book creators. Like, we just did an interview with a local comic book creator, Kyrun Silva from Taurus Comics. He's got some really cool stuff, really interesting. Following like the comic book artists and writers on Twitter and Instagram, they'll usually post the projects they're working on, and there's a lot of cool stuff to just kind of jump into there. I
have my image that I always go to.
Yeah, what was that?
If you like horror stuff and a very strong female character as the main character, hack slash. Mm-hmm. Think of a victim in a horror movie who decides to take vengeance upon all the slasher killers.
Yeah.
Hack slash. That's my favorite.
Yeah. Saga is this awesome space opera Shakespearean story that is just going off the rails in an awesome way. East of West is another fantastic independent one. It's hard to say just because comics have gotten so big recently. There's so much out there. It's hard to say beginning stuff.
Yeah.
Then the fact that you know the wiki, the fact that you know the characters' histories is really good because then you're not going to be jumping in blind. But if you're a DC guy starting with the Rebirth stuff, or like as Steve said, track down the stuff that started the MCU. It really, the Winter Soldier by Brubaker is just a fantastic all around comic book. Yeah, New 52 Superman was a strange one. That was a weird move. And then there were multiple Supermen flying around. Then one of them died and gave his powers to someone else. And New 52. New 52. You ready for my?
Oh, here it is.
Here it is.
I gotta join that one.
That's how I feel about the New 52 sometimes. So I got 24 issues into the new Batman. I'm gonna finish it because it's related to our news topic for this week. How about some news?
Fires raging 3 different counties in Northern California, but first, David Barry.
Oh yeah.
Sorry,
I'm going to talk about comic books. You're talking about real news. Yeah, there's smoke outside right now. There's ash on the cars.
That'll be at 11.
Comic books.
I'm Ron Burgundy.
Yeah, I'm Ron Burgundy. So, let me pull up our news topics for the week. First off, LeBron James. I'm sorry. I don't know what
Also, I just heard John Cena joined the Lakers.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And Airbud. So, the details for the DC Universe streaming service have finally been dropped.
Ooh, it's exciting.
So, DC Universe, for those of you who are unaware, they did announce a little while ago that Warner Brothers was going to have their own streaming service. I know, another streaming service along with your Netflix and your Hulu, but once they announced the details, they kind of hooked me with some meat hooks, and now I'm hanging from a ceiling.
Saw?
Yeah, a little bit.
Huh.
So, first off, they're going to have a couple of new shows. Hey, Trash Panda 12, thanks for the follow.
Thanks.
We're going to have some new, what do you call it? New series, but
Comics?
when they're not animated, what's the opposite of animated?
Live action.
Live action, thank you. That was hard. We're going to have live action series. We're going to have Swamp Thing. We're going to have Titans. We're going to have Hawk and Dove. No, are they going to be on the Titans?
Ooh.
Whatever. We're gonna have a bunch of stuff from them, but they also announced it is gonna give you access to the other TV shows. I'm not sure if it's all of them.
Nice.
But hey, thanks for the sub too with the Twitch Prime.
Thanks, Trash Panda.
Hey, that is free for you. Technically, it's not really because you're already paying for Amazon Prime, but whatever.
We're free.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for the support. So you're gonna have access to some of the old shows.
So does that continue? Keep going.
No, yeah. You're gonna have access to some of the old movies. We're going to have some of the classic Superman movies. We're going to have access to the classic Batman movies. So we got some interesting stuff coming on with the DC Universe app. The other thing, though, that you're actually going to have access to some comics, which I think is a really big, really smart move. I don't know what comics you're going to have access to. I don't know if it's only stuff relevant to what's going on right now or what, but they are going to have comics available in the DC Universe app. So now I'm slightly more interested.
Because you got both worlds there.
Got both worlds. Yeah. I mean, the shows, it's going to come up in our topic about Burnout. I'm not sure if I care about the shows. The Swamp Thing show, obviously. I mean,
he's all over that.
There's just the Swamp Thing up there, and there's some Swamp Thing, the books back there, and the poster, the Swamp Thing is in the other room. Yeah.
There's actually vegetation in this room.
Yeah, there's actually mold everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm a really big Swamp Thing fan. Mm-hmm. So, in other news, Batman 50 was spoiled by the New York Times. Now, the New York Times, they put it in their wedding section, which I think is a brilliant PR move. But when you do it the week before the comic comes out, that's a really dumb PR move. So the ending to Batman 50 was apparently spoiled. I didn't read it. It was apparently spoiled by the New York Times. So something might happen. It is the wedding, of course, of Bruce Wayne and Selena Kyle.
Anthony Steves and Melissa Steves.
Exactly. It's coming out Wednesday. There are some midnight launch events. Check out your local comic book store. They might be having one on the 4th of July into the 5th for the wedding of Selena Kyle and Bruce Wayne.
I love the advertising. The dang wedding invitation.
Yeah, yeah.
I saved that picture.
Which putting a wedding announcement.
That's it. Excuse me, announcement. Yeah.
In a news that's big. I'd like to, except when you spoil the story,
Right?
But that made Tom King said. First off, Gail Simone tweeted something brilliant. She said, even if it was 100% spoiled, it's still going to be an amazing read because it's Tom King.
Oh, of course.
And then Tom King himself said it's a 100-issue arc, love letter to Batman and Catwoman. So don't give up hope.
If I'm right, they've been together. They've had a daughter, but I don't think they ever actually got married.
And CB Rich, news update, been an arrest in the Stanley elder abuse case. About a month of rumors, police finally investigated his caretakers and arrested one of them who was abusing his position. Ooh. I had not heard that. Thank
Our reporter on the scene, Seabridge.
Yes.
Thank you, live on the scene.
Yeah, Seabridge 1998.
Thank you.
New follower and new journalist for us.
Journalist for the Crusaders.
So if you could just, get some interviews for us, that would be great. But that's good to know. I've been following that, but I hadn't followed it today or the past couple of days because, baby. Batman, switching back to Batman, I don't think he married anyone else.
Hooked up, never got married.
Because he does have a son with Talia al Ghul. But it might have been like a League of Shadows style wedding.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's ever actually tied the knot officially with anyone. But yeah, so check out Batman 50. We're going to need to look into what's going on with Stan Lee's caretaker. And yes, Batman 50, him getting married is a super big deal. And I'm really looking forward to it, which is why I need to catch up on everything. So that's the news for this week.
So when you said on the DC universe, the streaming thing, were the CW shows?
That's what I don't know.
Be on this?
That's what I'm curious about.
That's interesting.
So the main topic for the evening: comic book burnout. I don't have a fancy button. I don't have a thing. Comic book burnout is a thing that is very easy to encounter because right now we are surrounded. We are literally surrounded, but it's everywhere in the pop culture. It's the comics, the physical comics. We got the movies, we got the TV shows, we got the toys, we got the video games, we got everything in between. And it's really easy to get overwhelmed. It used to be you had to search. It was like, okay, there's only one or two movies every now and then. There's one or two TV shows. But now it's everywhere. And now it's gone from sparse pickings to, we had a lot of options and we could start actually, not looking at some stuff because we didn't have to the point where now we're just inundated. So you are big time TV movie buff. That's what got you into comics, really. How do you feel about the sheer amount of movies and TV shows that are at right now? Do you think it's a good level? Do you think it's too much? How do you feel about the idea of being burned out, at least on the TVs and the movies?
Burned out, I don't know, because I think of it for me, I'm, like you said, movies, TV shows, that's what I saw first. It was this show that got me into the comics themselves and the books themselves and reading them. I think I'm still very excited when I hear about a comic book movie, because, growing up, I watched Superman, Christopher Reeve movies on repeat, over and over, the TV show. And those were the first movies I watched. I watched Michael Keaton's Batman before all the other Batman ever existed. I was watching those, and I think of it as, while we've had superhero movies since late 70s and the 80s, there wasn't that big, amount of them. Like every year there was a superhero movie.
Yeah.
What I think keeps me from being burned out about it is the fact that we may enjoy it while it's here, because they keep saying there's going to be this time where comic book movies won't make that big opening weekend,
right?
Won't have that highly rated TV show, and so it's one of those, like, I don't watch them every day, but when they're on, I don't get burned out about it because I'm thinking, hey, enjoy it while it's here, because one day it's gonna be normal for it to be, that movie sucked.
Yeah.
That Marvel movie sucked. That DC movie sucked.
Yeah.
That Image movie sucked. So I think I space it out. I do have, believe it or not, there are days where there is not a Marvel or DC movie playing at a Steve's Manor.
I don't believe that. I think that's a lie.
I'm quoting them, but I'm not always watching them. But I don't think I've reached that point. It's understandable if you have.
Yeah.
I get it. They're all over the place now. I personally haven't reached that point yet.
Yeah. I've reached it with the TV shows, not with the movies. Because the movies, I mean, there's a decent amount of space in between them, and it's just one shot. A couple hours.
Yeah.
I personally, I know Solo was apparently a flop, but I didn't get why they're shelving all the Star Wars movies. I didn't think we were being inundated with the Star Wars movies yet. But the Marvel movies and the DC movies haven't been great, but I haven't really felt inundated yet. Marvel movies, they've got a great plan right now. They keep it really well spaced out, and I'm able to do the movies. I like the movies. I'm tied to the movies. I'm down with it. The CW shows in particularly, it got so, there was so much. I was doing okay following Green Arrow, and it wasn't great. I always like to say the first season is like dry oatmeal. It's good for you, and but it's hard to swallow. And then it got good, and then Flash came, and then Supergirl came, and we got Black Lightning, and they started having crossover events, and we had the Legends of Tomorrow, and it just got so much. Like, I mean, they literally almost have 4 or 5 nights a week where there's a DC CW show, and whether or not they were good or bad, I couldn't keep up. I fell behind, and I had no desire to catch up, just because it was the sheer volume. I just wasn't about it. Same thing happened to me with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I didn't not necessarily inundated because it was only one series going on, but it just started to drag, and I was just it basically got to the point where I'm like, I don't need this anymore. I don't need to support it. And that's what I think where you talk about, it's like movies and shows, they were so few and far between, we felt like we had to throw all the support behind it, because
now they're doing fine,
because it's the only option we had.
Yeah.
It's like, if we didn't, like, what's going to happen? Like, if we didn't go to every midnight showing,
Iron Man flopped, there's no Marvel Universe.
Exactly. We had to do so much. But now they're these behemoths of television and film, and I feel like, all right, cool. I don't have to throw in all that time and effort, because I'm going to be honest, I've fallen behind. Netflix. I never thought I'd drop off with the Netflix shows. When Daredevil came out, I was like, wow, I am in. And then we had Luke Cage, and we had Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, and Defenders, but I was like, I'm on board. I'm excited. And then Jessica Jones season 2 came, and then Punisher came, and now Luke Cage season 2. And I'm gonna be 100% honest, I fell off. I never even finished Punisher, and it's not because it wasn't good. There was so much, because there were movies coming out at the time. There were other shows coming out. Kyrun in the chat just mentioned Cloak and Dagger, which I'm really liking. Cloak and Dagger, but even then, like, I had to tell my wife, we have to keep up on it or I'm gonna fall off, because I'm so inundated. Runaways, Legion, haven't watched Legion, and I hear great things. There's just so many things going on there, and yes, maybe having a baby did crip my style a little bit, but I have a job where I can have TV going while I'm working, and it still, even then, it's just, there's so much right now. There's so much content, and I haven't even started talking about the physical comic books. Like, this is just the TV shows and the movies, and in the last 10 years.
And it's funny because I grew up the DC guy, and the shows that I'm still religiously watching, although I'm not as fast as I was, is the Marvel Netflix shows. I have been constantly, for the past 2 years, one season behind with the CW shows. Like, I marathon them when the next season is approaching. The only thing I've kept up with the CW shows is...
You and CB Rich are on the same page. The crossover episodes.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Because I like seeing... Because it's like it's TV version of Avengers Infinity War. Yeah. You get to see all the heroes together fight one common enemy. I like how each show... Instead of it being Tuesday nights, Green Arrow, they all have their episodes those 4 nights. Yeah. And the focus on them. So that I'll watch, but I'll be a season or 2 behind on them. Everything else. The reason I enjoy the Netflix shows, like for Marvel, the only ABC series with Marvel that I really thoroughly enjoyed was Agent Carter. I loved Agent Carter.
Yeah, Agent Carter's
I
great.
loved the way they took the story.
Yeah.
Everything right after the events of First Avenger, how she deals losing Steve, as far as she knows, Steve's dead.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. And then the transition from SSR to what is becoming SHIELD, her character development. I really loved Agent Carter. I wanted to come back.
Yeah.
Agents of SHIELD, and I know it also had the same thing as Green Arrow, that first season of Dry Oatmeal.
Yeah.
But I think the reason I stuck with Green Arrow, or with Arrow, is because that's the superhero main character we know. We know this guy is in the DC universe.
Yeah.
Granted, I don't know as much about Marvel, but
Well, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was a lot of new
a lot
stuff.
of new people
Yeah.
that this guy, besides Sam Jackson's cameo
Yeah.
when he appears,
Yeah.
and I mean, Coulson's great.
And
but-
Shabatsky
once, yeah. Coulson's a great character,
Yeah.
but there wasn't enough in it to keep me going, whereas Arrow was, let's face it, Batman with a different character.
Yeah.
It was totally influenced by the Nolan trilogy.
Right.
There's Nolan moments through season 3. It's Ra's al Ghul. Come on, it's inspired by Batman Begins, which we found out. Raz is the
that's
Arabic
correct.
pronunciation.
Yeah.
I'm so rocking that.
Go back a couple episodes and you'll find out why
Raz is
Raz
right.
Al Ghul is the correct pronunciation.
I feel so good about that.
Not
Anyway,
Raish.
and also what I love about the Netflix shows is I not only like seeing these characters that I didn't read about
Yeah.
and didn't start reading about till these shows, but the way they deliver their stories. How the first season of Luke Cage is a love letter to Harlem.
Yeah.
How Daredevil touches on not just the character. There's his belief system, his morals. It's the way they tell the story.
Jessica Jones, as far as like psychology
Yes.
of criminals and of abuse.
Exactly.
It was I mean, it was parts of it were hard to handle, but they were really well done.
Punisher's touch on PTSD.
Oh, God.
How differently it was affecting Frank versus the other military vet who took it the other direction.
Right.
There's a political debate basically in the middle of Punisher.
Which I think is part of the reason I had to. It was almost
heavy.
I had to take a break.
Yeah.
And the problem is then there was just something else. There was
Oh, yeah.
another thing
Yeah.
for me to go to, and
Yep.
I never came back.
Yep.
And now I've fallen because I'm behind on all of them, and I don't know if I'll ever want to or will ever want to try to catch up.
I've also slowed down because my wife actually enjoys the Netflix shows, and because she's always opening like at 6 a.m., she can maybe get an episode in and then night.
Yeah.
So I'm a little slower in marathoning the Netflix shows because she's a fan too.
Yeah, well, it's hard. I mean, like right now, we're trying to catch up on movies this week. Like we're going to catch in a couple of the $3-5 showings of a couple movies we missed. Part of that is because we had a kid, but part of it is also just because it's tough.
You're out of time,
Dude, it is
There's so many
tough.
things.
There's so many things, and again, we haven't even talked
about the
about
comics.
comic books.
The Barrier has been the first new comic that I have read, and I'm sad to say this because I'm on a comic book podcast.
Yeah.
Weeks.
Yes, Sergeant Squiggles. I did not finish the Punisher on Netflix. Just the sheer volume of everything.
He's not hating on it. He just hasn't been able to finish it.
It was great, and then I was just like, I had to take a break. I know it's good. I was halfway through. I know it was good. I just the wave of that, and then by the time I was like, okay, maybe I can reevaluate and go back to Punisher. By then Jessica Jones was out, and I'm like, oh,
and now Luke's out.
and now Luke Cage is out.
I love Luke.
And I'm looking. It gets so much darker. Like that. That's why I need to take a break from it
yeah,
it's so dark.
because episode 9 and 10 is when we get full Frank casting.
Yeah, so question in the chat, Kyrun, will you watch the shows on DC streaming service when it comes out? Again, I want to, but I'm not sure if I'll be able to. I'm with CB Rich earlier said that they were going to watch Titans and Swamp Thing. I'm definitely going to watch Swamp Thing because Swamp Thing is one of my favorite characters of all time. I love reading Swamp Thing. I have the only pops that I have are like 75% the same Swamp Thing, just with one's glow in the dark, one's like fuzzy, one smells. but I don't know if I'll be able to do the rest of them just because the sheer time. I mean, I made myself, and it was good. I made myself marathon, like I said, issues 1 through 24 of Batman last night because I wanted to catch up. But even that, like, there's so many books going on right now. We mentioned, like, not wanting to jump around between Nightwing and Batwoman to catch all the stories. There's dozens of titles that come out every week. Dozens of titles coming out from Marvel and DC and from Image and from Boom and from IDW and from Taurus Comics. A friend of the show, Kyrun Silva.
Both.
We got so many comics coming out all the time, and that's a Black Mask. That's even Avatar Press. Like, there's so many friggin' Antarctic Press, I think, is another one. I think they got in trouble for Comicsgate. There's just so many titles out there, and it's not a bad thing. I will never say that the amount of stuff we have out is a bad thing.
He's not complaining.
I will never. It's just so much to handle. It's a wonderful problem to have.
Yeah.
You know?
This is a first world problem.
It's a great problem to have. That there's too many good shows to watch. There's too many movies. There's too many books to read. It is a great problem to have. But it does then bring about this idea of burnout. I had to take a break for about 2 weeks from reading comic books, which is something that I've never done in the last 8 years, 10 years. I have not taken a break from reading comics in 10 years. And I had to take such a break. And everything was good. That's the other thing. I wasn't like, man, okay.
It was like it slumped off.
These are getting ridiculous. Yeah. It was like, this is so good. This is so good. This is so good. What am I can't. I'm looking at my wallet. I'm looking at the times of the day. I'm looking at my baby who's 6 months old. And I'm like, you were just a week old. What's happening?
You can count on very minimal fingers how much you've slept. Wait a second. No.
What is the fingers? I'd lose
my eyes twitching.
Counting.
My eyes twitching.
But and so now, I mean, again, we have Netflix. We have DC coming out with a streaming service. We have Disney, who's apparently going to have their streaming service.
Hulu's got some guys on
Hulu's got some on there. There's stuff on FX. There's stuff on ABC. We didn't even talk about AMC. We didn't even talk about Preacher and The Walking Dead.
And Fear the Walking Dead.
And Comic Book Men, which...
that's
Comic Book Men has been canceled. Let's say a quick prayer for Kevin Smith. Like he's hurting at all.
Yeah,
but I mean, hey man, if you want,
he's looking great.
If you're looking for some new guys,
hey Kevin,
West Coast Comic Book Men.
We got places like Jersey out here.
Sergeant Squiggles Sci-Fi has the Krypton, which I didn't think I was gonna like Krypton, and then I started watching it and I'm like,
that was looking pretty
good. This isn't bad. Just another thing for me to dedicate time to. And there's just
and how are you gonna feel now that Seth Rogen and Goldberg, after doing Preacher, are now going to do Invincible? Your Invincible story is now about to hit either movie or TV screen. I'm not sure yet.
What are you guys doing to me? What do you
Someone woke up and said, "Hey, David Barry loves comics. Let's give him comics and everything."
Basically, they were Miss Trunchbull. Trunchbull, is that her name, from Matilda? And I'm the fat kid with the cake, and then it's like, have another slice. And I'm just like, and then everyone started chanting for me, and then at the end,
Invincible.
And then I pass out, and then I get put into a room with spikes, and it's basically an Iron Maiden.
Well, and then there was a point where I was able to pull off, like, it was maybe a year or two ago, where I had, like, every week I had 7 DC stories and 5 Marvel stories I was reading. And then there was an Image here and there.
Yeah.
I pulled that off somehow.
Yeah.
There's no way I could pull that off.
At one point, I was reading every Marvel title.
Yeah.
And right now, it's I could show you the stacks of books that I go down to Empire's Comics Vault. Hey, local comic shop selling hot sauce and having pugs.
Pet pugs.
And I have bags and bags from Ben and these aren't just like, oh, maybe I'll read that eventually. These are books that I've been reading religiously, and they're just sitting in a stack. And like I said, it's such a good problem to have. It's like looking at hours of entertainment, and I'm just like, wow, cool. I have hours of entertainment. And then I just can't,
If there was only a way to, like, matrix it, like, I know Kung Fu.
If I could, what was the 90s Nickelodeon show? It came out around the same time as The Adventures of Alex Mack.
Okay.
Because she was the one who got exposed to the chemicals and got, like, powers.
Yeah.
The one with the kid who was the alien. And, I can't remember his name. Beanpole actor. But the way he read, he would put his hand on top of a book and just read it. And it was like...
Yeah.
And I was like, I wish I could just do that. I wish I could just put my hand like onto a stack of comics and be like,
oh, that's what happened.
Oh, all right, Bendis. I see what you're doing.
Okay, I like that, Bendis. Good job.
So it's
Johnny Five with
the journey of Alan Strange, Sergeant Squiggles in the chat room with the save. Thank you, my friend. Yeah, the journey of Alan Strange. The way he just read comics, because there's so many. And again, I know I sound like I'm complaining, but it's such a good problem to have. But burning out is so understandable right now. If you feel like there's too much out there, you're not a bad comic book fan. You know, if you're just like, I can't read all these books, I can't afford all these books, I can't afford all these streaming services, I can't afford to go to the movies that often, that's okay. There is so much out there. You're not a bad fan. You're still supporting the industry just by talking
son
about
of a bitch.
Oh, yeah. Thanks Squiggles. Thanks for the host. You're not a bad comic book fan, I promise. But if you need to take a break, you know, I've got all of these. Oh, Ruru, thanks, man. Your fandom isn't hardcore enough. Get off the internet. If I, you know, you go into Empires, and I got all these books that hold that Ben holds for me. If I need to tell him, hey Ben, I got to take a break, man. Like my wallet can't handle it, or I can't handle all these books. He's like, cool, don't worry about it. Like he's not like, oh, fine, leave my store. No,
dare you?
They're understandable, but if you got to take a break from any of it, because it's everywhere, and it's not just the books themselves, it's not just the movies themselves, it's the discussion about it. Mm-hmm. There's so many of these YouTube shows and podcasts and Twitch shows and that just talk about comic books. This is awkward.
But burnout in podcast is not a thing, because people need the podcast.
Exactly.
You need us.
We're free.
Right?
But you can always give us money if you want.
That we're down with that too.
But yeah, there's so many YouTube shows. There's so many, you know, talking about comics, talking about the characters and the writers, and there's the interviews, and that's the other thing. We have more access than we ever had before to the industry itself. Via Twitter and Facebook, we can see what the writers and the artists are working on.
Oh yeah,
you know, Todd McFarlane does all these live streams all the time. I feel like the Todd father. My Uncle Todd is always just hanging out there teaching me about Spawn and what it was like to be in the comic industry, and I get to see exactly Ruru right here on Twitch. You can watch Jim Lee draw, one of the greatest DC artists around right now, one of the head honchos. You can see him just draw. Yeah. You can get all these opinions and all these different things from all these different people.
You got Scott Snyder tweeting 3 times a day.
Yeah.
James Gunn, director of Guardians, is always on Twitter.
Super active.
He never sleeps.
And a lot of times they even have their own AMAs. They're just like, hey, I'm like, the other day Scott Snyder was like, I'm dropping my kids off at school. You know, what questions can I answer you guys for the next 15 minutes? And everyone's just like, Batman, witches.
I like your face.
That was just us.
Yeah, that was it. He never answered.
But I mean, he does follow us. Friend of the show, Scott Snyder on Twitter. But yeah, and we just have so much around right now, and it's a different type that we you know, before we just had books on newsstands, and even in the 90s we still had the conventions, but we didn't have the type of access we have now to the creators and to the creative process and to the back door. Like we see stuff in the industry now, sometimes it's shady, gross stuff, but it's all there, it's all just laid out for us, and it is understandable if you look at that and if you look into the void and the void looks back and you feel like you got to take a minute.
It's like the Kermit with the hood on. I can't watch any more comic shows.
Exactly.
Watch 5 more.
Sergeant Squiggles says, do you think we are in the second golden age of comics? And if that is true, do you think we've passed the apex of the second golden age because we are now oversaturated? So that's a brilliant point. I do think we're in the second golden age of comics. While you can go, there's a website and a Twitter kind of follow called Comicron, and Comicron, what they do is they look at Diamond, who is the primary provider of all comic books to comic book stores. They look at their sales and they compare it to past years, to past, you know, a year ago, 2 years ago. They compare titles, and it's, you know, it's tough because the way books are sold is very different now. But just sheer just saturation, like you just said, is proof that we're in the golden age. The fact that there's movies and TV shows and the biggest stars in Hollywood are Marvel actors. You know, the biggest names in Hollywood want to be in DC and Marvel movies.
You have Academy Award winners on both ends of the movie industry.
You have Pulitzer Prize winners who want to go write comics. You have people who would look down at comics 10, 15 years ago who are like, I want to break into the comic book industry because that is such a, you know, that's where I want to be, whether it's because it's financially they see it as a good move, or it's because creatively, like, artistically, they see it as the medium that is not just, oh, kind of like reading, or, you know, oh, like, you know, poor man's literature. Like, no, it's its own art form. And yes, we're in the golden age. And I honestly don't know where that apex is, because I feel like if we were going up, suddenly just everything, the ground rose to meet us and just started lifting us, and we're like, guys, I don't know I don't even know what's happening anymore. Like, we're on one hell of a bubble right now. Like, the industry in a lot of ways is doing the same thing it did in the 90s with the sheer amount of books and the
oh, I know which one.
He's talking about Suicide Squad.
Yeah, makeup.
the sheer amount of books on the shelves, which that doesn't necessarily mean local businesses are doing well. We've had local comic book stores close, but the sheer amount of books, the like I said, the movies, the actors. Where was I going with this? Thank you. The bubble feels like it's gonna burst soon, but it's like, it's weird. It's like the bubble isn't as easy to gauge anymore, because the movies in some ways are keeping that train going, but that doesn't mean the sales are necessarily showing that. But it's still like comics themselves, like the idea of comics, are still very popular. You know, but we hit 10 years of Marvel movies, and now they've hit their big boom. Now what's going to happen? You know, and Squiggles is calling it 5 years from now, comics are on the downtrend. D&D is the next big thing. Okay. I mean, sure. I mean, we're already
starring Marlon Wayans.
Yeah, we're already playing. Yeah, we'll do the movie. We'll do TV shows. I'm already doing the D&D. We're doing that right now. You can go back and watch our D&D episodes.
With the bubble bursting, it all depends on how the stories are told. Marvel, the way they've planned things out so far in advance, and they've kept things fresh. Infinity War, look how they turned it around. Yeah. They made Thanos the main character. They made you not so much sympathetic, but you understood where he was coming from and what he believes he was doing. You have The Dark Knight Rises, which is inspired also by A Tale of Two Cities, a Charles Dickens book. So when you find these ways to reinvent the stories, movie-wise, I could see the bubble going longer. And when the comics, they start doing the same thing. They start being, hey, Dave Ayers.
Hey, thanks for the follow.
Thanks for following. They start taking, old stories and infusing it into their comic book world, and it's what they try to do to keep it going. I think, we can say the bubble might burst, but for all we know, it might not burst anytime soon. Yeah. It could keep going. They say, like, the Westerns went out. Well, I don't know.
And so here's the thing. So the thing about Westerns, comparing it to Westerns is really difficult, because there were literally hundreds of Westerns coming out every year at the peak of that.
And kind of the same thing over and over.
Yeah, we're nowhere near there. Yeah. But we're moving so much faster as far as media is concerned, as far as the way we're engaging in pop culture. It's moving a lot faster. So it's really hard to compare to previous bubbles. Yeah. Damer has actually just brought up a good point. First, thanks for the follow. There isn't the speculation in buying that there was in the 90s. Also true. We have some stores who are going out on a limb buying thousands of copies of a book, but we don't have the same uncertainty when it comes to the actual buying. So it definitely feels like we're riding this strange wave. Like the bubble just keeps expanding and then dropping and expanding and dropping, and it's almost like it's doing well enough and checking itself, but I don't know if that's going to be where it goes completely. CB Rich brings up a really good point. I just hope that it never gets to the point that comics and geek stuff are so unpopular that kids are bullied again for bringing a comic to school or wearing a cape.
Agreed.
That's what that right there, 100%. I don't want it to suddenly be uncool, because the thing is, and I never, I don't think Steves would have bullied me in high school because I think Steves was a cool guy.
I wasn't bullied.
But some of the guys that Steves hung out with would probably beat him up then if he was into what he is into now. Then. Yeah.
Inception.
It's true. I'm really glad that everything is as popular as it is, and I hope it doesn't go that way again, where, you know, reading comic books makes you a nerd. Like right now, dude, Tom King was just on Late Night with Seth Meyers.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. You know, like we're getting this great exposure. Like I said, like the biggest names in Hollywood aren't, you know, getting. For a while they were kind of getting crap, and they're still getting crap from some uppity, you know, directors and people who are like, comic book movies. But I think the fact that Robert Downey Jr. gets off a plane and gets screamed at like the freaking Beatles is more important than James Cameron's opinion. All right?
I'm gonna say RDJ doesn't give a damn what those uppity people are thinking.
I think Chris Evans is like, what's that guy? He was that famous, like, was he French? Or is he Italian? That guy who like walked out of Black Panther after 30 minutes. Oh. And I like looked up his stuff and I'm like, yeah, cool, dude. I have no idea who you are. I get that you're this super artistic, beyond me European creator. But yeah, dude, I don't think the dollar signs on the end of Black Panther care that you walked out of this film.
And it's funny to me that that you can be the artistic director and still love the hell out of an Iron Man or a Captain America or a Black Panther movie.
They're not mutually exclusive.
You can think Godfather is the greatest movie ever made, and you know what? You still want to watch Starship Troopers and have some fun watching it.
Yeah.
You don't have to be only one type and that's it. I've always hated that anger that I only watch Citizen Kane, excuse me. And it's a fine movie, but you know what? I also like Bad Boys too. Sorry.
Watch Schindler's List and then watch Spaceballs.
Done it.
It's a wonderful thing. Sergeant Squiggles, good point. D&D is just getting out of that stigma. It's true. Like guys like Vin Diesel and Matt Mercer and like Critical Role is bringing D&D out of this nerdy cavern. Magic the Gathering, the two holdout stigmas of the hardcore nerd. Which I also get that whole like, I liked it before it was cool. I get that mentality. I've always gotten that mentality because there were a lot of things I liked before they were cool. But at the same time,
you can't. You kind of shun people away when you pull the.
Yeah, it's like,
I liked it before it was cool.
Yeah,
Okay, I like it now.
These guys who were bullies and who were jerks, like now all of a sudden they love Iron Man and they want to talk to you about Iron Man when they would have beat you up when you were a kid who were talking about Iron Man.
Beat up everything Iron Man stood for.
Yeah, and you know what? You don't need to talk to them. You don't need to engage with them. Like you can be like, yeah, you were kind of a jerk, but at the same time, like. The fact that those guys are now interested in comic books means that your favorite creator can stop working at their part-time job and just be a comic book writer and just give you great content. So it's got its ups and downs. Mm-hmm. And Kyrun says, if someone liked Iron Fist, would you question them? No, I mean...
I'm hearing... spoiler alert. I'm hearing that his appearance in one of the upcoming Marvel shows... Have you heard? You haven't heard any of those?
Ooh, no, tell me.
Do you want to know?
Yeah.
Okay, spoiler alert. 1, 2, 3. Danny Rand is in this season of Luke Cage.
Cool.
And supposedly, what everyone who has seen it has said, he's much better in this appearance than he was in his show in Defenders.
Good. So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. I might be like, oh, I didn't like it, and if they want to talk about the differences, I'm down with that. But I'm not going to shun them. I'm not going to tell them, oh, you liked Iron Fist? Get out of here, nerd. Like,
We debate and talk here. We don't shun. Unless you're like Gamergate, then we shun you. Adding on with D&D, you had Vin Diesel, another guy who is a big D&D fan, and also wrestling nerd, Joe Manganiello, Deathstroke.
Yeah.
Loves D&D,
super
loves
ripped,
wrestling. Yeah.
Magic Mike.
Sofia Vergara's husband.
Also Deathstroke, also a vampire. Now
Werewolf.
Yeah. I like him even more.
Yeah.
D&D, like he plays D&D, he's a voice actor, he does all this stuff. Like
he's a big nerd. He's a big built nerd.
But who knows if he would have beat you up in high school? I don't know. Because CB Rich, remember when I was a kid, every year bullies would take my books, throw them in the trash. The month after Avengers came out, they were bringing comics to school. Yeah, it kind of is frustrating in some ways to see that, but like I said, at the same time, you've got, hopefully they can learn from it.
Maybe it's the change.
Hopefully those bullies can now read, Captain America and Batman and be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be a jerk because of what they've got going.
True story. I used to work at an after-school program, and one of the kids was bullying a girl who it was Pioneer Day, and the girl dressed up as a pioneer. The kid who did the bullying was wearing a Captain America shirt.
Right.
So I pulled him aside, looked at him and said, do you remember why Captain America said he joined the war effort in the movie? Mm-hmm. And he's all, no, what? And he's all, I don't like bullies. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about yourself right now? The kid literally looked down at his shirt, didn't cry, but he had that look like he disappointed Captain America. He had that face. So you can make that change when, starting out young. Make them realize what these guys stood for. Yeah. That way when they see the bullies in school, they realize that's not what this character's about. Maybe it's change.
Yeah. I mean, and it's tough. I mean, there's still people who are, like there are still people who just watch, like Kate Berry just said, there are people who just watch the TV shows and the movies and they think they're somehow above the comic book readers. And then the other side, the comic book readers, sometimes they're above because they're like, oh, I read the source material. And it's like, when you're both, it's hard. Like, I love going to the movies with people who don't read the comic books because they're like, oh my God, that was so cool. Did that happen in the comics? Can you explain this to me? Like, I love that. But then I also love going to a comic book store and having all these hardcore comic fans who've been reading books the whole life and they're just like, oh, let's break down the way the movie did this from the books.
The next day the kid came back with a Red Skull shirt.
He's like, never mind. Steve, I took your lesson to heart. I'm a real bully now.
Why are you talking with a German accent? Kid, come on.
Papers?
We will go to that period.
Wait, I'm reading Sergeant Swiggles just put a great message in there. The culture was so anti-geek and nerd for such a long time that a lot of us still have PTSD. But someone told me this and I take it to heart. Being a geek is about really enjoying getting wrapped up in a fandom. You can't like Harry Potter wrong. You can't like Batman wrong. You can't like D&D wrong. And that is a beautiful thing for us to end on. Because even though that has nothing to do with Burnout, it's still a fantastic point. Mm-hmm. Because I forgot we were talking about Burnout.
Yeah, we got so deep into it.
I love it. I love all about it.
Some of us went from football to the theater stage.
Exactly.
It's possible.
Yeah, someone's got kicked off the football team and then went to the band and then they read the comic books.
See?
So,
bro nerds.
I wasn't kicked off, by the way, for not being good. I was kicked off for fighting. Anyway.
So you were a good football player.
I just wanted to put that out there. You were vital. I was a good football player.
I believe you.
But yeah, that is you can't like these fandoms wrong. And that ties into the whole Burnout thing. If you can't handle everything right now, don't worry about it. If you're burned out, that's okay. If you don't want to watch all the Netflix shows,
take a moment.
If you don't want to read all the comic books, you're not a bad fan. You are not a bad fan if you are tired of the sheer volume of nerdy pop culture stuff that is around right now, because there's a lot of it. If you're not really a fan of salt water and you're in the ocean, you can get out on the beach. It's cool.
Yeah.
Look at the ocean for a little while and be like, all right, maybe I want to jump back in. Maybe I want to go in a tide pool.
Yeah.
Maybe I just want to dig my feet in to where it gets wet and then the water's down there. And then, and then get back out.
Yeah.
Or you want to go stand in there so it feels like you're getting sucked out into the ocean. Weird analogies now. This has gotten strange.
And remember, they're all on streaming services. They're gonna be there waiting for you.
Yeah, that's the thing.
You can always go back.
That's I think why I keep going back. I keep on. Maybe I won't watch Netflix shows right now. I can always go back.
They're there waiting for you.
They're not going in there.
Yeah. And we're gonna be running CA, Comics Anonymous, for those of you who need assistance.
Yeah. If you and I'll hide all the swamp things if that is tough for you.
It's okay.
Yeah,
we're here for you.
Yeah. But you should really read Tom King's Batman.
Yeah, he's outstanding.
Because, God, Tom King is good.
Read everything Tom King's done.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah. So, first off, thank you for hanging out in the chat room and being really active tonight on tonight's show. You guys have been great. Everyone who's been participating, you guys have been phenomenal. You made this a really good show. Second off, be kind to other nerds, because maybe they felt like they couldn't express themselves at some point. Maybe they felt like they were bullied, or maybe they didn't understand a message, or maybe they feel like they can't get involved in a fandom because the fandom is too intense. Be nice to other nerds. That's at the base. We all like this crazy thing called comic books, Harry Potter, Star Wars, Star Trek,
wrestling.
Firefly, wrestling, everything in between. You can like all of that. Just be kind to each other in a very Jerry Springer-esque way. Thank you.
From the guys wearing Star Wars and Ghostbuster t-shirts.
Exactly. Thanks for hanging out. So, for the Capeless Crusaders, my name is David Barry. I am at Dr. Barry on varying social media platforms. I am joined by a fellow member of the Original Six.
The only one more thing I ask for is a dang hack / movie or series. Give me that, please. This is the Azorian one, Anthony Steves.
Hey, Sergeant Squiggles,
hey.
Thanks for the sub, man.
Thanks. Deadpool clap.
Deadpool clap there. So, thanks to our sponsors, our wonderful sponsors. First off, Beard Balm Brush. Hey, you have a beard, right? You're getting there.
You can hear it.
You're working. Yeah, just rub it. Don't rub it on there. That's weird.
Ooh, those listening have no idea where I was rubbing it.
Anyway, so Beard Balm Brush, take this awesome thing. They take the shape of the brush that you use on your beard, they mix in beeswax, beard balm, and oil, and they give it all in one fell swoop so you can style and self-care your beard, just like Jonathan Van Ness from Queer Eye tells us to do, honey.
And their logo looks awfully like a former AMC series about meth. Anyway.
I'm the one who knocks. Use our code CAPELESS for 15% off. Hey, or if you're looking for some retro video games, you need to get something fixed, you want to hang out in a video game lounge, maybe do some PlayStation VR, go to Computer Booter, mention us, get 10% off. Go to Empire's Comics. They don't have a discount, but they're just awesome.
They're awesome.
Get some comic books, hang out with some pugs, get some hot sauce. And if you're into Dungeon Dragons...
What?
Ooh, we are also sponsored by Critical Dice. Critical Dice, thecriticaldice.com. We have their stuff up. They sponsor our D&D streams. You get discounts off dice if you want to check them out. So, for the Capeless Crusaders, for Jane, you robot, aka Amy Nunag, who might be seeing Ant-Man and the Wasp in a press showing tonight. Ooh. For the son of Mander, aka Manderson, for Tom at Tall Dark Not Ugly on everything, who is going through...
He is at the San Bruno Temple
learning how to be a monk.
It's outstanding. We'll have some pictures up for you soon. It's outstanding.
He's bald. It's strange.
Yeah.
I actually really like it.
Yeah.
In a weird way. Yeah. So, for the Capeless Crusaders, drop a follow, drop a sub, wherever you want to, on any social medias or things. Good night.